Ronda is the greatest of all time with even 12 fights.
With women fighting.
For female fighting, she's the greatest of all time. It's not even in consideration.
All time's been a few years. And what's happened is the game has evolved to the degree that unless you have head movement and you can deal with the striker, you're not going to be that dominant. Once you can't get your hips that close to somebody.
Correct.
And flip
You also have to be, to your point, you also have to be all in. Amanda Nunes is punching bags. She's not reading scripts.
Right.
You have to be all in because the game's changing so fast.
Precisely.
I retired 3 years ago, 2014. I retired 3 years ago, December 6th. If I go into fight right now, I would get in there and be a completely different game.
But wouldn't you say, Brendan, that looking at her body, she was all in for this fight? Maybe not
all
mentally.
In's different. There's difference between physically being all in is easy to cover. I can run, I can hire a dietitian, I can do all that, get in shape, that's fine. But at the end of the day, fighting is more mental than any sport in the world. And it's here. It's so much here. If she doesn't believe that she's, back to our beginning discussion, unstoppable, the best in the world, and there's that question in there, then she's not Ronda Rousey the greatest anymore. Amanda Nunes beat Ronda Rousey, who questioned herself, coming off a huge loss, coming off this movie rejection, coming off set, coming off this weird Hollywood dynamic who's telling her how great she is. Again, that's not real.
And this isn't a referendum on somebody's greatness or not. Certainly, listen,
you cannot argue that she's not the greatest female fighter of all time in the UFC.
Sure.
Because to the point, there is no female UFC fighting if Ronda Rousey doesn't happen. Dana White went on record going, females will never fight in the UFC. I'm not having it. Ronda talked him into it, taking a shot.
That's huge.
She's
a pioneer.
There's no Amanda Nunes. There's no Cyborg. There's no Miesha Tate. There's none of that without Ronda Rousey in the UFC.
She's a pioneer.
She's the Jackie Robinson of female fighters.
Right.
There's no
unlike Jackie Robinson, the level of competition that she was dealing with.
I don't care about any of that stuff.
No, I don't care about it. I get your argument.
None of that matters.
Makes perfect sense.
That's not her fault.
No, nobody's blaming her for that. But what people are saying,
you can't argue Babe Ruth is the best baseball player of all time because there wasn't one black guy throwing a baseball. There wasn't one Cuban. They're all white guys.
Yeah.
That's not his
people
fault.
People do argue that he would.
They do, but that's not his fault.
I know. It's like the Roy Jones argument. You know, who did he fight and all that? But it's
Mike Tyson too.
Yeah, Mike.
Who did
Tyson
he beat?
Too.
What I think is very interesting.
But part of the discussion about Mike Tyson was why he peaked at 23 years old, and other guys peaked at 35 and went on to sustained careers.
Well,
is that
psychological?
Psychological. He was a relatively fragile guy. And as soon as Mike Tyson lost, you never saw the same Mike Tyson.
Exactly.
Other guys get better when they lost. Bernard Hopkins came out of prison, lost his first fight. He was never the fastest guy, never the baddest guy in the gym. He just beat everybody. And he was able to do it till he was 50 years old.
Some guys get
the
knocked out.
The argument is that Ronda is more fragile psychologically. You got a pretty strong argument.
And I agree 100% with that, Duff. And no one's really talking about that because I brought up the point where it's very similar with Tiger Woods and Mike Tyson, where when that foundation gets rocked,
phenoms don't always fare well when the competition gets going.
No,
when you get punched in your mouth, you'll find out a few things about people.
That's why fighting is so much different than everything else. With the point of Mike Tyson, if LeBron James, who is this phenom, loses the finals, it's basketball. He still played pretty well, even though they lost. He can come back next season, do his thing. In fighting, with people like Ronda, Mike Tyson, when that foundation gets rocked, and to Tiger Woods' point, remember when Tiger Woods, when all that negativity started coming out, and he lost the tournament, and then that foundation, he's never been the same. Let me ask you this. What do you think his swing changed? Do you think the golf course got harder? No, it's all here. He's not the unstoppable Tiger Woods. Ronda, after getting fucking murked in Australia, went, holy fuck, I'm not God's gift of fighting.
And
then that seed goes, you're not.
Let's make a distinction too. In fighting, you're getting punched
when
and
being
knocked
a phenom
out.
Becomes a liability.
Hector Macho Camacho, when he took that left hook and it knocked him down, didn't knock him out. I can't remember who the fighter was. He was never ultimately. A lot of fighters, when they get hit that hard, they actually don't come back the same. Getting hit in the head.
A lot do.
True
their
fighters.
Their chin doesn't come back the same. It doesn't mean that their
won't. Their heart does.
Their heart does and their mind does.
But you fight very cautiously. So Georges St-Pierre, after he got knocked out by Matt Serra, came back a much more cautious fighter. He fought differently.
Whereas Ronda showed up stiff.
Boring,
and there was no head movement. I'm not arguing she's not the greatest female fighter that ever whatever. But when you see some guys lose, they get better Conor McGregor got choked the fuck out, came back, fought the same guy at the same weight, and showed up for 5 rounds.
That was
it's a different
this
psychology.
Been my point this entire time.
And it's my point, too.
Because it's true, because... and I'm not saying Ronda's not a real fighter, but she's a phenom. She's the greatest female fighter of all time. But you find out what someone's about when they lose, when they get embarrassed. Yes. Conor McGregor, his camp goes, no. You're fighting Nate Diaz.
You and I were both. Everybody was like,
you're fighting Nate Diaz at 55. Conor, despite the management and the UFC brass, goes, no. We're doing it at 70 to prove that I can fucking beat this guy, and I want it next month. And they go, we're not doing next month. Yeah. I want that out of my fucking fighter. Yeah. If I'm betting on someone, if I'm investing my energy, marketing, and I'm putting all my dollars behind someone, I want that guy. Because the chances are he will lose eventually again. Yeah. With Ronda, once they lose and 411 days off, that's a red flag to me. Because I know... After a loss, you're like, oh my God, I got to redeem myself. Holy fuck, I got to get back in. Sure. This is embarrassing. Whenever there's that long layoff, these are huge red flags.
Yes.
There's huge red flags.
Yeah. Donald Cerrone can't wait to get back in. There are certain fighters.
But when you're a phenom and you're beating people in under a minute, I mean, I don't know. You're not developing the psychological wherewithal to deal with a certain kind of adversity. You can call it adversity. But if you're that good, it's not that adverse.
But you know what? That's also not the sport, because, and I'll never forget this, I had three or four fights outside the Ultimate Fighter and murked everyone. Under a minute, I'm knocking guys. I'm like, this shit's so easy. Right. I go on the Ultimate Fighter.
Right.
I go on the Ultimate Fighter. I knock everyone. I'm like, my God, I'll do fighting. This is fucking easy. Yeah. They give me Roy Nelson the finale. Yeah. Boom, get knocked out. Yeah. I remember being in the back, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? I didn't sign up for this. Yeah. Keith Jardine comes up to me and goes, this is fighting. This is
somebody once said,
Keith Jardine's literally like, yeah, man, this is a sport. Think about Keith Jardine's career, and he goes, this is what we do, brother. Sure. You win some, the valleys are so fucking low. The highs are so high. This is what you signed up for. I went, fuck, he's right. Yeah. Then I went on another 4-fight win streak. I'm like, I guess that's a fluke. Douche. This is what you signed up for. Remember those valleys we speak of? Yeah, you're down there now.